Okay, welcome back. It's been a while since I posted a video. I will be getting back to the playthrough. I've had a few real-life projects and a lot of extra work going on at work, but we'll be getting back to it. But I thought in the meantime, what I would do is I'd make a quick video to go over a update to Elianora's Prudy Vault suit that she has been gracious enough to let me release. So I'm just going to go over the details about what I've changed in the mod. And after this, I'll do a brief in-game video showing you how to craft it and a couple of how the stats and stuff show up in there. But we're going to go over the stats and everything here too. So if you don't want to see that part of the video, you can just, absorb the data that I'm about to dump and take it from there. On the left, you can see Elianora's original Prudy Vault suit mod. You can see the form IDs for that. For the armor add-ons, they're the same. The form ID for the entry level or level 0 vault suit is there. The form ID for the recipe for the entry level vault suit is there, but the object effect or the enchantment that goes on the clothing, that is not there because I made my own enchantment that I put on each one of these. Now, something else that I did, there are some mods out there that add meshes for a male version of the Prudy Vault suit. But what I did is I just told it to use, for the male version, to use the clean vault suit texture. And for the gloves, I told it to use the Silver Shroud gloves. So the male version just uses the clean vault suit and Silver Shroud gloves. So if you want just a really simple way of having a male version of this suit, just pick a cool, clean vault suit texture that you want to use and put just the clean version only in your either your override folder for textures, or you could add it to your texture override archive, whatever works for you. But basically, it's tiered at level 0 with no level requirements. You can see in the spreadsheet over here. This is probably going to be the simplest way to go over this. At level 0, from the beginning, you can create the basic entry-level suit. It's worth 5 caps, gives you 5 damage reduction, nothing else, but you could add a shielded lining to it for an additional 15 energy and 15 radiation resistance. Now, this is the damage reduction stats on this are actually reversed from the vanilla vault suit. The vanilla vault suit had, I think, some energy and radiation resistance, but no damage resistance or reduction. But I liked Ellie's approach where she put the ballistic damage reduction in because you're going to run into more of those enemies at the beginning. So it made more sense to me to have that and then gradually start adding energy and radiation resistance as the suit levels up. And you can see that I have 2 scales. I have scale A, which is the lower scale, and scale B, which is the higher scale. In my current playthrough, I'm using scale B, the higher scale, because I'm also using a triple damage multiplier. Both the player and enemies do 3 times their normal damage, or 4. I forget which one I chose. It's either 3 or 4 times. But anyway, with damage buffs, you might want to use the higher tiered scale to get the protection that you need out of this suit. But if you're using vanilla damage, use the lower tiered version. And they'll both be available for download. Now, why did I even make this in the first place with this leveled tiered system that goes all the way up to level 100, yada yada? Because I hate power armor in Fallout 4. Several people have noted that they give it away at the beginning like it's candy. That drives me up the wall. I remember in Fallout 1 or Fallout 2 or Fallout 3, and even Fallout Tactics, you had to kind of work your way up to using the higher tiered gear. And power armor was one of those things that you could look back and say, yeah, I finally earned it. I got my training. I did the quest. It was kind of an achievement. And they just took that out of 4. You get it in one of your first encounters with Preston and his crew in the Museum of Freedom. So I'm like, nah, I think I'm just going to play without it. Now, you can still layer combat armor and stuff on top of this for just a little bit more damage reduction. But we'll get into that some more later. But basically, the level 0 suit starts there, and you can see it goes all the way up to level 100. And at level 100, the material cost goes up twice what it normally would per level, because level 100 also gives you a ballistic weave slot. And you can tack another plus 110 damage reduction in ballistic and energy for that. So you can see your ending values here on the vanilla version. I'm also using a radiation damage boost in addition to a damage boost in general for players. So in testing with the tier B, or excuse me, the scale B, or the higher tiered version of it, with the triple damage multiplier, I spawned in or crafted in a level 100 suit and tested with that at my level 100 character. It didn't have any lining in it, had no ballistic weave, and I had no player perks for damage reduction. With that suit on at level 100 in the glowing sea, spawned in a leveled Deathclaw, and I was able to survive between 5 and 7 hits on average before the Deathclaw killed me. Same thing with a level 100 Sentry Bot. Spawned a Sentry Bot in, and I was able to sustain 1 or 2 of his shoulder ram attacks where he runs into you, and maybe 4 to 6 seconds of sustained minigun fire before the player dies. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but remember with the triple damage multiplier, I'm using one that also the player does triple damage. So I was actually able to kill both of them, the Deathclaw and the Sentry Bot, with just the suit on. Now I took a lot of damage, but I was able to survive long enough to kill them. So it doesn't feel imbalanced so far. Also, with regard to the radiation resistance, the Scale B gives you 715 when you're done. That's not quite the 1000 radiation resistance that you get from the environmental suit. But I went into the glowing sea and I just kind of like sat in one of those radioactive puddles. And I would take anywhere from 5 to 15 rads per second. So you do still take some rads, but it does provide some radiation protection. So all in all, it seemed pretty balanced. If you disagree, or maybe you use a higher damage multiplier than me, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 times damage, or a dynamic damage, you can feel free to tweak this to your liking, but I felt like this scale would work. Now, in addition to scaling up into 2 versions, the amount of materials required also is different, and the value for the suit is different. The Scale A lower version, the value maxes out at 1865 caps for the level 100 version, or the Mark 10. And the crafting materials max out at 12 and 24 pieces of material, respectively. It goes up slightly at Mark 10 because it adds ballistic weave. So instead of like going up 1, it goes up 2. But the difference between the two is the Scale B, which gives you the higher protection. The value goes higher. The amount of materials you use at level 100 also go higher, and the weight, the maximum weight, goes higher. Now, one thing worth noting is the level 0 suit does not have, if we look at the recipe, it does not have the more exotic requirements of aluminum, fiberglass, or lead. It just requires adhesive, leather, plastic, and cloth, because it doesn't give you any energy or radiation resistance, so it didn't make sense to require all those materials. But as soon as you go up to the level 10 version of the suit, you're going to need to throw some aluminum, fiberglass, and lead in there for your energy and your radiation resistance. So that's the only minor tweak to the crafting materials and the ratio of 1 of the more exotic materials or 2 of the slightly more common materials. The other thing is the buffs that they give you. You can see them here in the enchantment scale. The description tells you exactly what they do. At level 0, right from the beginning, you get 10 additional action points and 20 additional carry weight. Now, carry weight's going to help anybody. Action points, they'll help people who are VATS users a little bit, but they'll also help with sprinting. So even if you're not a VATS user, you still get a lot more sprinting time using this, and that might help you escape some situations a little easier. But it's not an insane amount. At the Mark 10 suit gives you an additional 70 carry weight and 110 action points. Now, if you go a full agility build, I think the max number of action points you get with like 10 agility is 140, something like that. I'd have to look online and check the scale. So this doesn't quite double them at level 100. It gives you like 40% more, give or take. So that'll let you get a couple extra shots off if you're a VATS user, or it'll let you sprint for a good bit longer. So I figured that'd be a decent amount of value to put in those buffs. Now, if you don't like that, of course, as with everything else, feel free to tweak it to your liking. I just didn't want to put, like a stat bonus in here for specific builds. Like if I did perception and agility, that might work for some builds, but not others. If I did strength and endurance, that might work for some builds, but not others. So I wanted to keep it neutral. So I just went with carry weight and action points. Now, the carry weight doesn't get crazy either. The scale A suit, which doesn't provide quite as much protection, maxes out at 10 pounds. So your net carry weight increase is going to be 60 pounds when you equip this. Because of the additional protection, the additional materials that go into it, the scale B higher protection suit maxes out at 20 pounds, so your net carry bonus is going to be 50 pounds. But everything else is the same, action points and carry weight. So that is pretty much it in a nutshell. You can start crafting the no requirement, the level 0 suit. As soon as you get a crafting station built, you just build it at a chem station. It shows up under, I think, utility, and I'll show you all that in-game. But yeah, that's it. It gives you a male version. It tiers up every 10 levels up to level 100. The level 100 Mark 10 suit gives you ballistic weave, and there's 2 versions of it available. One that's scaled for like normal damage and has what I'd call normal crafting materials and normal weight to it. And then a scale B, which is designed for higher damage games. If you have a damage multiplier or radiation multiplier in there, it requires more crafting materials and ends up weighing a little more. And that's it. So I'm going to stop yammering on about the data here. Feel free to open the ESP. There'll be a screenshot copy of this spreadsheet posted as an image along with the mod, so you have something to refer back to. But yeah, after this, I'm just going to hop in game, and I'll toss in a brief video clip crafting a couple of pieces of the armor so that you can see how they function and just verify functionality for like the carry weight bonuses and the protection stats. Anywho, I'll stop this section here, and I'll pick up in game in just a minute. See y'all then. Okay, welcome back. As you can see from the XP slider, I loaded an existing game, and I just bumped my level up to 100 just to demonstrate how you can craft this all the way up to level 100 so I can show you all the stats. And I'm using HGS's Easy Home Builder, which has a very nice compact crafting station that has cooking, weapons, armor, and a chem station all built into one. My kitchen also has a cooking station over here that's part of a different mod, and that's Elianora's armor workbench as well. But basically, if you've used Elianora's Prudy Vault Suit before, you basically go to any chem station, and you go down to utility, and you will find the Dark Vault jumpsuit as an item that you can craft. Now, I kind of left the vanilla one very close to the original Prudy Vault suit, but I tiered them up every 10 levels to level 100 as mentioned earlier in the video. So at level 10 you can make the Mark 1 suit, then Mark 2 at 20, Mark 3 at 30, 4 at 40, etc., etc., all the way up to Mark 10, which has power armor class protection, 70 carry weight, 110 action points, requires a bit more material jumping from 9 to 10 than it does scaling up from the others. But this also adds a ballistic weave slot. And you can tell from the stats, if you recall the 2 spreadsheets, there's 2 versions. There's a lower version and a higher version. The lower protection version is good for like normal damage multipliers. The higher protection version is good if you're using like damage increases for radiation or for physical and energy damage. And I'm just doing this, I reverted back to the lower tiered version just to show you probably what most people are going to use using vanilla damage. If you're not playing on survival, this one's going to be great for you. And I've already crafted a bunch, but I'm just going to go through the crafting menu here so that you can see roughly the stats that each one gives you. You can add 15 energy resistance and 15 radiation resistance to all of these if you add a shielded lining to it. So this would all go up. You can refer to the spreadsheet for every tier that's there. And the male version in my mod uses the clean vault suit texture, which It doesn't show in the crafting display mesh here. That's using the old one. I didn't bother to change that. But if I come out of the crafting menu,
It's remarkable the things you can do with only 2 hands.
yes, thank you, Curie. She dialogue bombs every one of my videos. I think she knows. But you can kind of tell on my guy, I'm using a customized clean vault suit texture. This is like the Shadow Hexa. I forget what it's called, but there's any number of clean vault suit textures on the Nexus that you can use for this. I added the Silver Shroud gloves to it, and that kind of completes the look. If we go over and we look at Curie, she is wearing Elianora's original Prudy vault suit texture and mesh. Some leather armor and definitely some combat armor clips through it. I found the combat armor clipping to be worse than the leather armor clipping. And since we've both stepped up to combat armor, I've got all of hers flagged as invisible using Crafting Framework. But, just going to go out here real quick and check inventory and look at it in inventory. You can see all the stats match up with what's on the spreadsheets. And with Mark 10, if I wanted to go in there, I could add a ballistic weave to it to bump the ballistic damage resistance and the energy damage resistance up by 110 each. And then you can add shielded lining to add another 15 to energy and radiation resistance. And that'll get you some really good protection crafted all the way up to level 100. So, I hope you all enjoyed that. There's not much more that I can think of that I need to tell you about this mod. Just go back and you'll need to download Elianora's original Prudy Vault Suit mod. This is just an ESP update. You still need her meshes and her textures. From what I showed you earlier in the video, I'm not sure how converting to CBBE works, but if you have the CBBE ESP and you don't need to do anything special with the form entries, you should, and that's should in air quotes, be able to copy my recipes, the craftable or constructible objects, and the actual armor objects as overrides from my ESP into a CBB ESP and see if that works. If it does, you're golden. If not, you could see about taking this and just converting it to be CBBE friendly. Should work fine, but I just don't know how to do that. Otherwise, I would as a convenience. But you could even wear in combat armor. I still get a lot of protection with this. It's very close to... what was I thinking? It's very close to power armor, and I think it'll be a really good substitute because like I said, I can't stand that they give power armor away in this game like candy from the very beginning. It has a very different feel than the original Fallouts, so I prefer not to use power armor. So this was a good alternative. I hope you'll enjoy it. I hope you like the mod. If you do, feel free to give me, a thumbs up on the video or endorse the mod. But if you endorse anything, endorse Elianora's original mod, please. All credit goes to her for creating the original meshes and artwork. All that I did was create the tiered lists and the ESP and make it so you can craft them at a chem station. Anyway, until the next one, I hope you guys enjoy this, and may you shoot many super mutants in the face.